Welcome back to The Next Woman Up. I'm Michael Waterloo, joined by Melissa Treebwasser, and we are here with episode 3 of the latest Winsidr podcast. And Melissa, before we get into everything, I was going to ask how you're doing. I know you were on location last week, Texas and Baylor. So how's everything going? Getting ready for the holidays? And take us
Yeah.
through what happened at Dickies Arena.
Listen, we it was awesome to get an opportunity to go out and cover. The Wings hosted that game as part of the Sprouts Invitational, and so they asked me if I'd be interested in coming out and watching some great basketball and taking some photos. And you don't have to ask me twice. So I pulled a doubleheader because TCU women also played that afternoon in Fort Worth. So it was great. I will tell you, Michael. I know how good Texas is because I saw that team take out my Horned Frogs last year in the Elite Eight. And so I knew they were good. And I knew how good Madison Booker was and how good Rory Harmon was. There was a different level that I saw against a Baylor team that is going to be really competitive this year, but was completely and totally overwhelmed by the Longhorns. What that team is doing defensively, full court press, the Nolan Richardson 40 minutes of hell from Arkansas back in the day. And they're doing it on a short rotation because they still have some injuries. But Rory Harmon and Jordan Lee, who we'll be talking to here a little bit later in this episode, not to spoiler alert, but at the point of the spear, I mean, just elite, aggravating. Baylor was in hell. I mean, legitimately, they were in hell that entire game. And, they unfortunately had a significant injury that we're still waiting to hear kind of what the totality of that is going to be. But Madison Booker, I think, has an argument as the best player in college basketball this year. I think she absolutely there's some great competition. AZ Fudd and Sarah Strong at UConn are playing great. Lauren Betts is playing great. There's a lot of good players. Olivia Miles is just ridiculous. But what Madison Booker can do at her size, she's starting to extend out that shooting ability a little bit. If she could develop that 3-point shot, I think she could. It'll be her and Juju for 1-1, a year and a half from now. But it's been really fun to see her game develop and her size and strength and a willingness to play defense and her offensive game, her creativity around the rim. She's really, really special. And Rory, another year removed from that ACL injury, just doesn't turn it over. She protects that ball like it's a gold bar. And it's just fun to watch a point guard that plays with such flash and flair, but also just values the basketball that much. That team is really good. And if they get some depth back, they are going to absolutely contend for national championship this year. And nobody's played a tougher preseason than the Texas Longhorns. Nobody's got a better resume than them right now. And this hurts me to say as a Frog fan, but just talking to Vic after the game about that schedule. And he just said, yeah, like, we're doing this. We're doing it shorthanded. We're doing it playing 40 minutes of full court defense. He wasn't willing to say they were the best team in women's college basketball, but you can tell he knows he's got something really, really special. And if that team isn't in the Final Four next year, I'll be absolutely shocked. And if they're not playing for national championship, I think it would take a pretty big upset along the way.
Yeah, I don't think you're wrong at all. During that game against Baylor, I posted out on Blue Sky. I'm like, I think Texas is going to be your national champs, and there's a ton of great teams. We're going to get into them. There's 12 undefeated teams right now, included Texas. Just looking at them, like you said, even shorthanded, as they're waiting to get fully healthy, with Brianna Preston coming back, Aaliyah Crum coming back, the standout freshman. Like you talked about, Rory Harmon is just one. She may have the best IQ in all of college basketball. She just
Yeah.
does not turn over. Is the reason that Vic talks about her as being a future coach. And you kind of did tease it, but the next woman up this week for our interview is Texas sophomore Jordan Lee, who you talk about defense. She is a lockdown defender, as you heard with our interview with Donovan Hunter. I love defense. And yeah, she continues just to have a breakout year. But we talked to her about Rory Harmon. We talked to her about Madison Booker, Aaliyah Crump. We talked about her to her about every single thing, and I'm very excited to get into that interview. But there was a big week this week within college hoops. Talked about Texas and Baylor last week, and just to let you know, we are recording this on Sunday, December 21st, and we spoke to Jordan. It was right before that Texas Baylor game, just to add some context there. But Melissa, what games this week did you watch that really stood out to you?
Yeah, I mean, it's fun as we kind of wind down the non-conference schedule and we see some of these last marquee out-of-conference games, just to continue to see just elite matchups across the board. I thought that, to me, one of the most eye-opening games was Tennessee and Louisville. I mean, those are two teams that were separated by just a single spot in the AP rankings, and they look like they were in two very different places on the court. Game started off pretty ugly in that first quarter. It was pretty back and forth. There were a lot of missed shots, good defense, but also it seemed like there were some nerves by both teams. And to see Louisville just kind of put their foot down and run away with that game. I was I don't want to say I was surprised, because I think that we know what a good team Louisville is and how well coached. We talked about them in our first episode, and what a great job that Jeff Walls does. But they were so dominant in that second half and just absolutely running away from Tennessee. And Tennessee's interesting because at times they look so good and like they're a team that could be a Sweet 16 team and could make a deep run into March and into April. But at other times it still seems like they're figuring it out. And I think it's unfortunate because when you have a coach that runs a system that's so counterculture, it's really easy to, when things don't go well, to drop the blame at her feet. And I don't know that is the issue for the Vols, but at the same time, it just seems like the consistency is continuing to be an issue. They got absolutely dominated on the glass in a way that was really shocking. Like Louisville, because of the way that they play, the style they play, they're always going to attack the backboard, both offensively and defensively and rebounds. But I mean, they just got smoked on the glass. And you wonder how much of that is what kind of shots that they're taking on offense, what kind of system are they running, what kind of defense are they playing. But at the end of the day, a real disappointing result on a neutral court for the Tennessee Lady Volunteers. And they have some work to do before they get into SEC play.
Yeah, they absolutely do. And what you talked about inconsistency when we look at the players, Janiyah Barker, that's kind of one of the big knocks against her. Any single game, she can go out there and look like
Yeah.
she's every bit of a first round pick. And then you see her being held to 7 points and 3 of 13 shooting. And, a lot of that you got to tip your cap to Louisville for being able to slow her down. But that's also something that you need to see more in Kim Caldwell's system, especially like you said, whenever I think back to Chip Kelly at Oregon and when he goes to
Mhm.
Philadelphia, the Eagles, it's like, oh, okay, he has this very fun system. Everybody loves this, but whenever it doesn't work, then that's whenever like you start
Yeah.
getting called out. So we could see the same kind of thing with Kim Caldwell. I wrote a piece about that. Is like her system is not a gimmick; it just works.
No.
But whenever it's the struggles start coming there, you start hearing that G word even more come out. And
Yeah.
yeah, that just kind of comes with it. But I do think that they will be fine. And yeah, that was the game that took place at the Barclays Center there in Brooklyn, and that was followed up by the nightcap, which was or the afternoon cap, I guess, if you will, UConn versus Iowa. I don't know how much you got to watch of this game, but it's one that I was very very interested in just from the beginning. And man, I'll tell you, UConn, just the pace that they play at, just the in your face, and it's just like pick your poison. You really really can't, and they kind of showed it again here in their big win against Iowa. And the matchup I was looking forward to was Hannah Stuelke against Sarah Williams, two bigs. Like we saw the way the Stuelke played against Iowa State is
Yeah.
very, very, very impressive. Just kind of having that veteran presence there. The way that UConn was instantly able to kind of slow her down, not stop her. She still got hers. I think she had about 17 points, but they were able to double her on the block as soon as she got the ball and force somebody else to beat them. And on Iowa side, they had kind of a pretty brutal injury with Kylie Fairbach. She injured her ankle, and she is, I believe, a fifth-year senior, and she's dealt with an ACL injury in the past. So automatically, that just kind of put them behind the ball a little bit. She eventually returned to the game, only played about 10 minutes, but you could just tell they were just playing from behind the whole time, and UConn really just took advantage of them, getting Sarah Williams down the block, one-on-one coverage. You can't do anything with that. Seeing AZ Fudd being able to kind of stretch the court the way she does, Sarah Strong doing Sarah Strong things,
Yeah.
and KK Arnold, I might have to clip this and put it on our Blue Sky, on our Twitter, something like that. She made an incredible read. Sarah Strong came over to offer a quick screen, did kind of hesitation dive, and the way that KK was able to feed her the ball was just a thing of beauty. I audibly woke up my dog just saying, "Oh my God," watching it. But it's a game I would like to see be a little closer, but UConn is just so good. You talk about Texas as dominant as they are. I think it's the same kind of way with UConn whenever you look at them. It's just you can't really slow them down. But better things ahead for Iowa, dealing with some injuries right now. But I continue to be impressed with the play of Chit Chat Wright, one of my favorite players just to watch in the whole country. Last year with Georgia Tech, I got to see her play against Georgia. I was like, yeah, she's living up to the hype. So seeing her go over to Iowa and just watching her breakout performance, I guess you could call it, against Iowa State was phenomenal. And to see her still get her points and make that difference, get into the next level against UConn was just really, really a sight to see.
Yeah, I mean, UConn is such a machine at this point, and you can kind of almost anticipate and expect what they're going to do. But their ability to consistently live up to those outsized expectations says a lot about the culture of that program. And obviously, Gino is one of the greatest of all time for that reason. Um, Sarah Strong and Sarah Williams have been absolutely incredible, and Sarah Strong was so dominant in that game. There's really not a whole lot you can do to slow her down. But I think also just AZ Fudd, like coming in with the pressure and all of the tension, and she's doing her podcast and she has all of the spotlight on her and all of the will they or won't they with the Dallas Wings. Like it would be so, I mean, this is still a young woman. She's still a young person. And so I think that the grace that she deals with all of that, the good, the bad, and the ugly side of that, unfortunately, is really impressive. And for her to continue to just show up night in and night out and live up to those expectations and exceed our expectations on the court, I think says a lot, again, about the character that she has and about the support system around her and about the way that UConn has, I think, really done a good job of giving her space to create her own brand and her own name, while also making sure that there's guardrails in place so that that she's protected too. I think that is just a really cool thing to see. And I don't know if she'll be a Dallas Wing here come spring, but I think if she does, like that would be a difficult situation for a lot of young people to walk into. But I think she's more than prepared to do it both on and off the court. So very impressed with her and how she's handled this year with all of the attention. Now she had a pretty good role model to do so a year ago, right? Like I think that the playbook was put out for her, and she's taken it and run with it. So I love an underdog. I've always been a fan of underdogs, but UConn just in their dominance is really fun to watch, and I would not be mad at all with a UConn and Texas national championship game, and it seems like we are kind of heading down that path for sure right now.
Yeah, I think everybody would be happy in that case. Basketball fans would be happy. Networks would be happy.
Yes,
Every
yeah.
single person would happy. You'd be able to tell a ton of storylines about AZ Fudd, Rory Harmon, both coming back from those ACL injuries. You have Madison Booker, Sarah Strong, be able to kind of showcase their abilities, kind of being those top players at the next level. And we all know about Texas. We all know about UConn. We all know about those players and those teams. But Melissa, who is an underrated or under the radar player or team that has stood out to you over the last couple of weeks?
Yeah, I will tell you just, as again, someone that covers a Big 12 team, Iowa State is one I am keeping a very close eye on. It seems like TCU and Iowa State right now are kind of separating themselves from the pack. We kind of alluded to the Talia Scott injury for Baylor, and without her on the floor, they look like a much different team. I haven't really seen anything about what her long-term availability is going to. I keep kind of refreshing social media and checking the news sites to see if there's any reporting on that. But if she's out for any significant amount of time, Baylor really struggled on offense without her, and they'll have some time to adjust before they get to the meat of their schedule. But they certainly look like a different team without her on the floor. So, but Iowa State it just continues to impress. They beat Iowa, a week ago or so. I think that was right before we recorded last time. They've looked really strong, and everybody wants to talk about Audie Crooks, and for good reason. She's been absolutely dominant and impressive. But Addie Brown is really like, if Audie Crooks is the superstar, Addie Brown is the star that stirs the drink, I think. And what she's doing in a fewer minutes than she averaged a season ago, mostly because they've just been blowing teams out. But she's putting up near a double-double, averaging 15 points and almost 10 rebounds per game, about five and a half assists per game, and turning it over just 1.5 times. She's such a versatile player and has such a unique skill set, I think, at her size and position. She's been really, really fun to watch. And you look at that three-headed monster that Iowa State's been able to put together. This is a team that I think is a real contender. And when you look at kind of the favorites, going into conference play, to me, it's kind of 1A and 1B with TCU and Iowa State. Jada Williams, I think, has really just kind of given them an explosiveness too this year. So that's they're a team that I'm watching closely, for selfish reasons, because I got to get a scout ahead of their trip to Fort Worth here in about a month or so. But they're very fun to watch, and I think Addie Brown is really goes underrated and is a player that people should be paying attention to.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that is a fantastic call. And yeah, I'm really looking forward to that matchup whenever Iowa State does head to TCU. That's going to be one where I am seated, I am
Yep,
watching, I am doing
it is
nothing else.
circled on the calendar for me. I will be baseline for that one.
Exactly. Yeah, that's going to be fantastic. Very jealous you get to watch that. And a player I got to watch this year and her very first game back, game one of the season, was Madison St. Rose for Princeton. Princeton in the top 25, I think, for the fourth time in the last 5 years. And we were talking about Rory Harmon. We were talking about AZ Fudd as far as the ACL injuries. Same thing with Madison St. Rose. She missed last year with a ACL tear, so I really wanted to see what she'd look like coming back. And she looks fantastic as she's leading the Princeton Tigers. Again, top 25 team as of Sunday, December 21st. 16.7 points per game, shooting a career high 57.4% from inside the arc. She's still struggling to get it go from deep a little bit, but that's okay as we see her just continue to dominate the ball, being the on ball guard, and just put up fantastic numbers in her final season. At Princeton, the one thing that I love seeing is she has a lower usage rate, but a higher player efficiency rating, which is great to see. She's very unselfish player as she's looking to lead Princeton to an Ivy League title. And they're a team that I really, really like enjoying that. They don't get enough love. Obviously, they're not a P4 team. So that happens. But if you get a chance to watch Princeton, highly, highly recommend it, and definitely keep an eye out for Madison St. Rose. She's a player we're hoping to get on this podcast in the very near future, and can't wait to hear about her journey a little bit more. You talked about Addie Brown, the teammate of Audie Crooks, and this next segment is typically just the Audie Crooks segment. It's the stat lines of the week. We really could just name it that. I think we're waiting for our lawyers to come back with some kind of trademark or something like that. But I want to know, did Audie win your stat line of the week again, or is there somebody else who took it home this week for you, Melissa?
Listen, we're going to stay in the Big 12, but I got to shout out to my girl, Olivia Miles. Again, I watch every home TCU game in person. I'm going to be traveling with them a little bit too this season, which I'm excited about. And Olivia and I are developing a little rapport in the press conferences, because she'll come out and say something, and like a game ago, after her third consecutive triple double, which is what we're going to talk about, it was a 25-point triple double. Her and Marta Suarez with teammate triple doubles, the first time that's ever happened in a D1 versus D1 basketball game, was just ridiculous to watch. But Olivia comes out, she's like, I'm not the type of point guard that scores 25 points a game. I'm a pass first. Of course, this night she scored 25 points a game. So we sit down and I look at her after yesterday's Big 12 opening win over Kansas State, and I go, Olivia, last game you said you're not the kind of point guard that scores 25 points a game, and you're right, you scored 29 tonight. She's like, I knew you were going to call me out on that. It's really fun to watch. She's first of all super humble. As flashy as she is on the court, she's the exact opposite off the court, just super humble and low key. But what she's done here over the last 2 weeks of play, 3 consecutive triple doubles, that's only the second time that's ever happened in women's college basketball. She moved into third place all time in career triple doubles behind Sabrina Ionescu and Caitlin Clark. So pretty impressive company. Sabrina has, I think, 26, which is, I don't know that Olivia's going to catch her, but 26 is pretty ridiculous stuff. And then to come back in a game where Kansas State kind of did what they did a season ago to TCU with Haley Van Lith running the point and switched on the pick and roll. And Olivia has the size and the creativity around the rim. She was really able to take advantage of that, and she saw, you're going to one-on-one me with a big, I'm going to go to the bucket every single time. And she did. And she scored in a variety of ways. She looked great finishing around the basket. She got to the free throw line. She hit a couple threes. And in a game where TCU really struggled to put the ball in the basket early, shot just 52%, which is very low for them. She was the engine. And the Frogs have gotten, I think, I don't want to say deserved criticism, but questioned a bit, because their preseason schedule was very soft. They wanted to play big teams. Big teams didn't want to play them. But they needed to prove something in the Big 12 opener. And Kansas State had a real rough day at Schulmeyer Arena, and a lot of it was due to Olivia Miles and just what she's able to do. So she gets my stat line of the week for what she did here over the last 2 weeks, both in some lower level competition and then against their first Big 12 opponent. Michael, who impressed you the most here over this last week?
I want to give Stanford some love. They are 10-2. They're about to play. It'll be after this recording. That's fine. They're going to play my Oregon Ducks today. So I'm
Mm.
giving them a love now before Oregon takes them down and trounces them. But no, they are 10-2 on the season. Their two losses by combined 7 points. And there's a lot of freshmen that we talk about are really good. We talk about Aaliyah Crump. We talk about Aaliyah Chavez. We talk about Jazzy Davidson, Bianca Quinones out in UConn, Addie Mack. There are a ton of great freshmen. I want to focus on one for Stanford, and that is Lara Shumpy, the Australian who has started all 12 games for Stanford so far. Shumpy against Washington took down Washington, a top 25 team, and she shot 6 of 12 from three for them. She has just been locked in, looking every part of the standout freshmen that they were hoping to get as Stanford continues to rebuild their program. I have to give them some love. I was texting with my good friend Allie, who is a diehard Stanford fan. Every single player. She loves Cam Brink. She loves Haley Jones. She loves every single Stanford player. And she's just like, I hope that Washington win gets us ranked. I hope
Yeah.
it gets them ranked too, even though the Oregon loss today is going to hurt them. And if they end up winning, I'm going to sound pretty stupid when this podcast publishes on Tuesday. But either way, want to give Stanford some love, want to give Shumpy some love. Really, really looks the part of the building block that they want to have there in Stanford as they continue to kind of rebuild that program. So yeah, she really, really stood out to me. It's not the Audie Crooks numbers that we see, or it's not the Olivia Miles and Martha triple doubles in the same game, but she just really, really stood out to me. Just the way that she's playing, kind of putting that team on her back as a freshman is just really, really, really fun to see. So
Yeah. I
definitely
love
checking
that.
out some Stanford games.
Yeah, Stanford is my second favorite team. I don't know if we've had that discussion. I've got some family connections over there, so always cheering for the Cardinal. And look, it's important, especially in this rise of women's basketball, just both at the professional and the collegiate level. We want Stanford to be good. We want Stanford to be a tournament team. We want them to be making runs. I think it's good to have Stanford and Tennessee and UConn and UCLA and Texas and all of these teams be great, while also seeing kind of this new blood, the TCUs and the Iowa States and the Princetons. Princeton, like if you're not familiar with Princeton basketball history on both the men's and the women's side, get familiar. I'm a Kings fan too. Pete Carroll was kind of the architect of those early Kings years. So yeah, Princeton has a long history, but so does Stanford. And I think it's really important for those teams to be contenders and to be recruiting at a high level. And I'll be out in the Bay Area this week, so I'm sure I'll make a run by to get myself a Stanford women's basketball shirt while we're over there. So
I
that's yeah,
love
I think
that.
that's awesome. Michael, a lot of things that happen here at the end of a year as we reflect and we look back and we think about the things that went right and the things that went wrong in 2025. And I'm sure for both of us, there's quite a few of both. We also need to look back at our initial big board. When we put that up just right after the draft order had been announced, we admitted that we had no idea how things were going to play out. And here we are like 6 weeks later. And I think we can both admit we still have no idea how things are going to play out. We're still waiting on a new CBA. We have no idea what's going to happen with free agency. We have an expansion draft. We have all of these question marks. And I was talking to GM in the league this last week, and that has a high pick, and just kind of was like, we don't know what we don't know right now. I think that's kind of where we're at in this league, but that doesn't mean we can't keep evaluating players. And like we said, we're treating our mock drafts a little bit more as a big board, and we probably should get another one of those out at the first of the year. I think it's about time, right? But what's something that you look back on now and you're like, man, I nailed this one, or this player's really moved up, or maybe this player was a little overvalued now that the games have started?
Yeah, it's definitely something we are going to be putting out our mock draft 2.0 as we continue to kind of fly blind without understanding what's really happening right now. Get it together, WNBA and WNBPA. Like, we're with the players. We want that. Let's just have basketball. We can't wait to see it. But yes, we're going to be getting another mock out there. But for me, I look at the initial one and I'm just like, how did I let Sarah Williams fall to pick number
Mm,
9? He just looks so good. I think I even had her pick number
11.
11.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had her pick 11. You had her pick 8, and I'm just like, I am jealous of Melissa because I think she was on the ball, even though she was a little low, because she may be like a top 7, 6 player right now. But like, I did not mean to do the whole 6'7" thing. Please, that is not our demographic. Please move away from that. But Sarah Williams is the player that I think I have shooting up my board the most. It's just she has the UConn pedigree. She has the coaching there. She just looks dominant there. She's somebody, obviously a transfer who came over, and whenever she has somebody down low, just pure dominance. You cannot stop her. Just a fantastic basketball IQ, very, very soft hands. Somebody I like watching, somebody that I really think is going to shoot up my board as we kind of continue doing these. I think the one that I kind of Another one I'll say I kind of regret, I guess. I'm okay humbling myself. Gianna Neepkins, I had her fifth overall, and that was really me trying to look at fit.
Mhm.
Instead of going away from the big board approach, I was looking like, okay, what does Chicago need? They need that outside shooter. Again, not knowing who's on their team outside of the rookies that they have with Haley Van Lith, Angel Reese, Camila Cardoso. Like, those are the contracts we know that they're retaining over. They need an outside shooter. So I was like, okay, Gianna Neepkins makes sense. She's still somebody I really, really like a lot, but we talked about last week or 2 weeks ago, Medina Okot. She's somebody I'm going to be moving up. Sarah Williams, somebody I'm going to be moving up. So while I still like Neepkin, still think she's a first round talent, she may fall a little bit. How about you as you kind of get ready to have the turn of the calendar? Teams are getting ready to go on holiday break as you start kind of evaluating who's somebody that you see rising or falling or both on your
Yeah.
draft board.
I think that you just said my biggest riser, Medina Oka. I just like, look, I know we've talked about Dawn Staley and how she wants Medina to come back for one more year. Ain't no way, Dawn. I'm sorry to tell you. Though there are some clear, she's still very raw. There's some flaws to her game. I just don't see. I had her 10. I don't know that I see her falling out of the top 5 at this point. Somebody's going to fall in love with her and her athleticism. I think that there's just so much that she does well defensively, and I think that her offensive game, while it's still a little bit unproven, I think she does more than enough for what she's going to be asked to do as a rookie in the W to be a top 5, top 6 pick. So I don't know where she's going to go because we don't know how all of this is going to shake out, but I don't see her. I don't see her getting to double digits in this draft whatsoever. She's shown more than enough, and just when you look at what the modern WNBA big is going to be, that's the model, right? Like, that's the mold, that's the plaster cast, that's what you want. And unfortunately, I think that means that Lauren Betts might fall out of that top 5. I still think she's going to be a first round draft pick, but I think her fit is so team dependent. And I would not be surprised to see some teams jockeying to get into that top 5 because there are so many elite players that could go in that group. So I could see a trade. I think Lauren has a future in this league with the right team, but it's got to be the right team. Like, I'm gonna think about Washington as a team that fits so well with Steph Dolson being a free agent going into this year and entering like year 15 or something. She's been around forever, but Lauren Betts kind of has that style of game, so maybe that's the fit for her. But yeah, I think Medina is just going to be one of those that the more she plays and the better she looks, the more opportunities she gets, the more some GM is going to say, we can work with this. This is a player that we can develop. So those are probably my 2 biggest one. I had Maggie Dugan hanging on at the end of that first round. I still think that she's a late first, early second round pick. But again, we talked about it. I did not put Marta Suarez in my initial first round projection because I thought I was being too much of a homer. But what she continues to do and showcase, I think she is right, kind of on the verge of being a potential first round pick too. And talking to some folks around the league, that does not seem like an outrageous thing for me to say. So it's been fun to see some folks scouting some of these TCU games, see some WNBA folks in the building, and I think that she's one that people are going to look at and say, like, this is what the modern stretch four looks like, and that if she can continue to rebound and work on her defense, then she could absolutely sneak in that first round as well.
So I'm going to put you on the spot here, Melissa. Say that Jamila Wideman and Cindy Johnson from the Mystics call you and they say, hey, at pick number 4, we are very torn. We like
Mm.
Medina Okot. We like Lauren Betts. Who do we go with? Melissa, you decide. Who's the next Mystic big?
I would tell them and that, like, I don't want to at all speak negatively about Lauren Betts. And we've talked about this too. The thing that's such a bummer, the more film that a team gets on you, the more film that a team gets on you, and the more they start to pick you apart. It's like when I tell my students when they're presenting projects, like, I'm going to be so much more particular on you when you have high standards, because I know what you're capable of. And I think that's what's happening with Lauren, is teams that fell in love with her are starting to fall out of love because they're nitpicking every single little thing that she does. But Lauren Betts is the most finished product that we have as at a big in the draft, right? And I think that the upside of Medina Oka is why I would tell a team, like, can you imagine her running the floor with Sonia Citron? Like, come on, like,
Beautiful thing.
right?
Yes.
Like, Sonia's vision and her playmaking ability. If you have a rim runner like that, like, I think that you invest in upside, and they're building already with such a young roster. Go with something that's fun and explosive and different, and just run and get up and down the floor and play an exciting brand of basketball. They're built to do that. So I would tell them Medina Okot. That would be what I would go with, but I also would not blame them if they went for kind of the more this. We know what we're going to get out of Lauren Betts. I think we all know what we're going to get out of Lauren Betts. I mean, we assume we know. Medina Okot, there's still more question marks, but man, when you look at her upside, I think that at this stage in the game, when you have such a young team, go for the high risk, high reward, right? Like, don't go high floor, low ceiling, or potentially we don't know what floor and super high ceiling. I'm going for that.
I don't think that's the wrong decision at all. I mean, they have 3 first-round picks again after having
Yeah.
3 last year. They're getting Georgia Amore coming back fresh.
Jeez.
So
God,
they
I
can
forget
afford
Georgia
to take a
Amore is coming
risk.
back. Yeah.
Yes, yes. So, I would do the same. And again, no shade to Lauren Betts at all, but also Shakira Austin, strict free agent. We don't know if she's going to return there or not. It could have a path where Medina is able to kind of step into rotation minutes her first year and then really kind of take over by year 2. So I don't mind that at all. And right before we get to our interview here with Jordan Lee from Texas, Texas is one of 12 undefeated teams in the country as of this recording at about 10:30 Eastern time on December 21st. Things will change, obviously. But Melissa, I'm going to go over those 12 teams very quickly. I want to know which one of them is a pretender. And by pretender, it's just a fancy way to say which one's going to get their first loss or which one don't we think is as good as the other teams. So we have Alabama, Texas, Arizona State, TCU, UConn, Texas Tech, Maryland, Vanderbilt, Iowa State, Georgia, LSU, and Nebraska. So, which one to you is the pretender? And there's a lot going on down there in your state of Texas. I'll just say that.
Yeah. It's a good time to be a women's basketball fan in the state of Texas. I'll tell you that much. Yeah. Look, I'm not trying to give them bulletin board material here because they come to town not too long, but I think Arizona State's probably the team on that list that has the most to prove. Right? Yeah. And again, I love what Molly Miller has done out there. I think that again, that's a program that has a ton of history too, both on the men's and the women's side. And I want them to be good. And it's great for the Big 12 that that's a good program. But we talk about soft schedules. I think they haven't played a team like inside the top 200 so far this year. They had a Power 4 win against Penn State. They got snuck by Oregon State. So it's a good Gonzaga team, a good Gonzaga program, but I still think that they have something to prove here as they get into Big 12 conference play. It's going to be interesting because they get Colorado, and then they're doing the same road trip that TCU's opening up with, and that they have to go to Utah and to BYU, and those back-to-back games in the mountains. That'll be a big, neither of those teams are necessarily big-time contenders, but that back-to-back road trip and elevation is always that'll tell you a lot about a team. So they're the ones I'm most interested to see how they look here after maybe the first month of conference play. I think that they're talented and they're dangerous and they're well coached, but I don't know that they're going to have quite the level of success in conference play that they've had in the non-conference.
Yeah, I was fist pumping if you're watching this on YouTube because that's my pick too. To me, like, no shade to them. I think they're doing a great job there, but I think they have the 352nd hardest
Yeah.
schedule, or another way to say the 11th easiest schedule so far this season. They haven't really been challenged. The offense is averaging fewer than 70 points per game against these weaker opponents. Very, very solid defense. And I do think the future is bright there. Again, another team that we really need to see just kind of be good for women's basketball. And seeing them come out to that undefeated start so far is great. But whenever you look at this list, there's a few other teams I can say, Maryland, Georgia, I'm not really sure yet about them. Nebraska, I still need to
Nebraska.
see a little bit more. Nebraska's probably second for me. It's very impressive what Maryland is doing. We should talk about them in an upcoming episode. But yeah, I think Arizona State's the obvious pick for me. I think they're going to be the first one to go down once they kind of start playing some tougher competition. We'll see what they're really made of. And again, this is a fantastic year, very first year for Molly Miller there. So great seeing that, but some tough games coming up: Colorado, BYU, and of course, like you said, 11 days after the new year, they have to face TCU. So we'll
Yeah.
really, really see what they're made of then.
We'll see them in Fort Worth soon. I mean, I'm excited to watch that game. I think that'll be a lot of fun. We'll know a lot about Nebraska here. Nebraska may be the first team to fall off that list because they get Cal Baptist, but then their first Big Ten games out of the break are USC and at Iowa. So Nebraska is going to be able to prove themselves pretty quickly after as Big Ten play starts. I think we'll find out a lot about them. I don't know that we're going to end up with anybody going undefeated this year. When you look at the schedules and who teams have to play, there's going to be losses across the board. I mean, Texas, that SEC schedule is not going to be easy for them. I think TCU will probably drop a game at some point. So I don't know that anybody will finish. The other one that we didn't talk about that I keep forgetting is an undefeated team is Texas Tech. That
Yeah.
has been quite a turnaround for that program. Last year, I saw them in person a couple of times last year. There were a lot of flaws. They're very scrappy. They're hard to play. It's tough to play in Lubbock. That's a great arena for women's basketball. It's just a great facility. But that team has really come around. They're on the verge of entering the top 25. They're in the receiving votes category. I'm going to be very interested to see if they can kind of maintain this level of competitiveness. They have some talented players. They can score. They play good defense. Again, well coached. And I know that last season was really looked at as a disappointment by the program. They expected to be better, and it seems like they've started to kind of turn that corner. So I'm excited to see what they look like in conference play too.
Same here. That's a very great call. I want to shout out Britt Prince out there in Nebraska, sophomore, putting up nearly 20 points a game. Fantastic to watch her. And as far as Texas Tech, yeah, they have a fifth year senior, a senior, and a junior kind of leading the way, all scoring around 14 points per game. And Bailey Maupin, Jalen Bristow, and Snuda Collins there in Lubbock. So their defense is just phenomenal, very suffocating. So it's nice to see them out to a 13-0 start. But as we stay in Texas, there is another program that has a very good defense, and that is led by actually sophomore Jordan Lee. And we were able to sit down with Jordan last week after practice to talk to her about being able to play in the Final Four last year. We almost had an interruption by Madison Booker. We found out what literally fuels Jordan Lee before games and throughout the week. We also got her thoughts on Texas barbecue, which you probably want to hear, but
Yeah.
you also want to hear the basketball stuff too.
Yeah, controversial. Jordan might get canceled after this interview. I'm worried for the kid, So she was an absolute delight to talk to, just super personable, just really great insight into the game. She's a NorCal kid, so her and I got to bond over being from the Central Valley, which was fun. But yeah, I really enjoyed that interview, and I think the best part of doing this is when you get to know these players a little bit, you just really gain an appreciation for them on and off the court. So I think people are going to really love hearing from Jordan. Just a very humble, very unassuming young woman who is an absolute beast on the court. So it was so much fun to sit down and talk to her, and I think people are going to enjoy hearing from her.
Yeah, absolutely. And let's kick it over to Jordan. And yeah, we'll be back on the other side. Welcome back, and joining us at the next woman up on the same day that the University of Texas volleyball team advanced to the Elite Eight is standout sophomore from the same University of Texas, Jordan Lee. Jordan, thanks for joining the program.
Thank you guys for having me.
Jordan, we got to go back. I'm a NorCal girl myself as well. I'm from Sacramento, and so we got to start with your high school career. You played at St. Mary's, just one of the elite programs. I was a long time high school basketball coach, Northern California too, and many a season ended at the hand of St. Mary's for me, more than once, unfortunately. But playing for that kind of program where the expectations are so high and where success is such a part of the culture. What do you think that you learned from playing there, and how did that play you for the bright lights of playing at a school like Texas that has those same high expectations?
Definitely. In that same way, it prepares you for, the pressures that you're going to have as well as the expectations and the university and in high school, kind of what I represented and just that it's important. I mean, you had a history past of players who have been through the program, coaches who have been through there and who have a history of being successful. So, the expectation when you come in is that you want to come in and help make an impact and add to the success that they've already had for many years.
You mentioned one of the famous alumni that have come through. One such that WNBA fans are obviously familiar with is Chelsea
Yes.
Gray. Is there anything you kind of take from her game? She's a little bit before your time there as a
Mhm.
high school student, but anything you learned from watching her play or that you took from her that you model
Yeah.
your game after?
So my high school coach was actually her teammate, and so the beginning of my freshman year, kind of during COVID, actually, when we were trying to get to know each other and having these weird Zoom meetings to like build team chemistry and stuff, she actually hosted one of them, and I remember she used to kind of talk about just one of the things that she felt separated her as a high school player was she did a lot of passing workouts, and obviously you've seen that translate throughout her career, being in the WNB now as great of a passer as she is, and kind of just being unselfish. I'm fortunate enough to play with many great players and have played with some in high school as well, and now especially. And so always being aware and being able to be a facilitator. And yes, when it's time, step up and, score when it's necessary, but also acknowledging the great players that I have around me and just being unselfish in that way.
It's awesome.
And while Melissa may be familiar with your game at St. Mary's from being there,
Mhm.
I'm familiar with your defense. And I have to say that is something that I absolutely love watching. Your defensive metrics pop across the board. Jordan, is that something that you pride yourself on? You're like, hey, like I might go out there. I know my scoring's up this year, but
Right.
if I score 0 points, but I'm locking down the other team's best player,
Definitely.
that's a successful game for me.
Definitely. I mean, I think as a player, you always want to make sure you're providing something and you're going to play in various arenas and shooting is not always something that translates, especially on the road. So if you could bring something as consistent as defense, which mostly relies on effort, you'll always be able to contribute something positive when you step on the floor. And then especially at Texas, obviously a lot of people are familiar with the expectations from Coach Schaefer on that end. And so it definitely helps to be able to fit in the system in that way for sure.
You guys have had some really high profile matchups already this season. And
Mhm.
when you're kind of looking at a UCLA or a South Carolina or one of these
Right.
top 25 teams, are you in Coach Vic's office just saying, I want to match up with this person, I want to guard their best player? Or are you kind of waiting for him to come and tell you what your assignment's going to be?
We talk about it a lot during film, and one of the most unique things I think about this team in particular is the time we spend off the court. And sometimes we're even just, we'll go to Dutch Bros and then we'll go home to somebody's house and watch a game. And so oftentimes we're talking about it a lot before we even get to film, especially for those high-profile matchups, just so we're familiar with characteristics and things like that. But typically he'll come and film, and then we'll have a few jokes, and the coaches will normally already have it figured out matchups wise.
What's the Dutch Bros order since you brought up Dutch Bros?
Okay. So you're Northern California, so I'm hoping you're familiar. Yeah,
Oh,
that's
yeah.
our spot. Even though I've probably been going for like 4 or 5 years very consistently, and I have like never gotten anything different. I get a large double blended strawberry mango rebel.
Oh, God, that's so
So,
much caffeine. That explains the energy on the
so
court. I
yeah.
get it.
Yeah, and it's great because we have a guy, there's one that's like 10 or 11 minutes away, and he knows us like we go 6 people deep every time. So it's like it's become our bonding activity now.
That's awesome. I love it.
When we see you walking down the court, we know exactly why
It's
now. It's
Dutch
all
Bros,
that
a
caffeine that you
hundred
have.
percent.
It's
Get this
absolutely
girl
Dutch
an NIL
Bros.
deal. Make
Yeah.
it happen.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
It's Dutch Bros, but I have to imagine a lot of that too is Rory Harmon, somebody who
Yes.
is on the court firing you guys up always.
Mhm.
And we saw the big ring that she got earlier this year. It was fantastic. I saw her showing off that bling. It was
Yeah.
amazing. But also, this is your second year playing with her. And I was
Right.
speaking to Coach Vic last year, and he just said in her future, she's a coach. When she's done playing, she has a role here whenever she wants as a coach. What
Right.
have you learned about Rory, the person and the player, in your second year now playing with her?
Oh no, for sure. It's been so much. I could say as a player, just attest to her strength. Kind of last year it was a different experience because, she had a lot of ups and downs. Just personally, her expectations were very high. And, obviously coming back, she was playing already. So there was kind of no halfway through the season. Like her expectations was to play and kind of be back to that same level and kind of watching her, go throughout the season. There were times where she was very frustrated with herself, just not performing to the standard and the level that she wanted to play at, especially, playing with a big brace, as quick and explosive as she is on the defensive end, guarding smaller point guards too. It's pretty difficult, especially in the SEC. So I just think there was a lot of resilience in watching that. And now this year, I think she's taken off and she's absolutely back, if not better, from where she was when she went down. And so we're oftentimes I'm entering the gym when she's leaving. And so just also being like watching every step of the way, that's something you get to be really proud of. And it just as sorry, one of my teammates is being strange. Anyway, um,
Call
and
him
then
out.
book.
Drop.
um, and then just as a player, it's super fun. Now in kind of our second year, we're developing a little bit more chemistry on the defensive end and offense as well too, because most of her time she spent with Shay Hawley on that wing, and they developed their amazing chemistry over 4 years. And so now we have the opportunity where we know where each other's spots are at, and she's just a great facilitator. I mean, 800 assists, I think last game. Yeah, and so the things that she's done for this program are just amazing as well. So we're gonna have a lot of fun continuing to finish out her career here, and I'm just super proud of her.
You guys made the Final Four last year. Unfortunately, it was at the expense of my TCU Horned Frogs. It was a rough moment for me. You're turning me into a fan, which really just hurts me as well. Getting to talk to you, but people look at Rory and Book, who you just shouted out there too, the veteran leaders on that team. But as a true freshman, you were a big part of that run. How valuable was the experience of getting to the Final Four, of playing in those high level games? As
Right.
it kind of got you ready for this year and built towards your sustained success?
Yeah, I mean, the experience does numbers for your confidence. I mean, one of the things you do to build confidence is obviously your repetition, and that preparation there is kind of no different, but still, obviously, getting into the moment, the nerves, the feelings, the crowd, depth perception, all of that is completely different. And so now to not only say, I have confidence in my work ethic and the results, but now I've been able to be and perform well in every situation. And so now going into my sophomore year, I feel like there's a lot of comfortability with that and knowing what to expect from myself in those big moments, and also seeing, how my teammates do and what helps them in those moments as well.
And I think it also has to help your confidence that you're not just a one-time, but a two-time gold medalist as well. How has playing with Team
Yes.
USA kind of helped mold your game as you continue just to kind of evolve as a player in your sophomore year here at Texas?
Oh, it's kind of the same thing. I mean, I think as a young basketball player, there was probably never an experience I was more nervous for than my first USA trials, especially with the committee there sitting on the baseline. But I've had a great experience both years, and both years were completely different. The first year, it was kind of everybody was in my class, and it was almost everybody but maybe one person's, I believe Joyce's first year on the team. And so everybody was just super excited and thrilled to come together that first time, because I think we were all like 0 for 2 and had gone to the trials when we were a little bit younger. And like I said, just we're super excited to represent our country, and, took a lot of pride in that competition. And then U19 was a little bit different. It was a lot younger team. I think there were only two other players that had any college experience. And so I took on more of a leadership role, just being vocal and obviously having a full year of college basketball under my belt. And kind of with those coaches, they were familiar, obviously, with Texas. We played Notre Dame, and Coach Neal was on the staff. So just a lot more, I feel like, experience and leadership came in that second year. And U19 is a very difficult competition. I mean, there's a lot of the film and the things that we touched on while preparing for that tournament, which is how the previous team did, and they were amazing. I mean, Book was on the team, Juju's on the team, a lot of faces obviously in college basketball now, and they struggled a little bit. I mean, they Spain and France brought it to them, and they had a multiple tough games in the tournament. And so, coming in, I think Australia was our close, in France as well. We're pretty close, and so just being prepared for those big moments. And it's a different experience too. It's similar to how March is, just in the fact that you have very little preparation. Texas, we're huge on prep. Like, we love to get our 2, 3 days and scout, but when you don't, it's like, how do you respond to that? Because you're not gonna know all 40 of their plays or be able to watch film for that amount of time. So it's kind of those little moments that you're just set up for success, because you have so many different experiences with it, with different groups of players, with different groups of coaches that kind of all add and bring different things.
And with those gold medals, where do you have those displayed at?
So I have both actually in my apartment here. Yeah. I have a cute little shelf. Yeah. Unfortunately, I'm obviously at the gym, but yeah, it's Got pretty much all of my stuff. My family did a good job of collecting all my like stuff from like high school, and so now I kind of wanted to do the same thing in my apartment until I obviously move. So yeah, it's got both jerseys, both medals, and then now stuff from Texas, both our lovely rings that we got from last year as well.
Small flex, just a
Yeah.
small flex. You know, it's
Exactly,
fine. It's fine.
exactly.
I totally did not even realize how many rings we get. Like I was
I
like, we
can
got a
just
ring for participating. Like it's just love it.
That's awesome. That's how it should be. It's a lot of work to get there. It's a lot of
Oh,
hard
for
work,
sure.
and a lot of effort. And it should absolutely be recognized and rewarded, even when it comes at the expense of TCU. It's fine. Uh, let's shift the conversation over to offense. Your game has really risen to the occasion in your sophomore year. Obviously, Michael talked about the defense that you came in is such a high level defender, but now we're seeing that
Mhm.
offense really pick up. You've said the word confidence a lot. How much of it is that confidence, your ability to grow, and also maybe the opportunities that have presented to you playing alongside such a
Right.
couple of really talented veterans?
It's definitely about the opportunities. Again, last year I was very, very glad to be playing behind Shay, who had been in the program for a while and got to model a lot of different things that she did because she knew the system in and out. And so now, kind of filling that role and seeing a good complement to what both Rory and Book bring to it, it's a really special opportunity, and they make things really easy. I mean, not a lot of teams have two or three really good defenders, and I know they're going to be super high priorities on the scouting list. And also, we have great post presence inside with both Brea and Kai, and so it's pretty. My job is not too hard. I get to make things easier for them, get to spread the floor a little bit, and just give them opportunities as well.
And you said that like sometimes in arenas, you want to give something, but the shots aren't always going to fall. I have to say, you're kind of setting yourself up as kind of like one of the premier 3-point shooters in the nation. The numbers are just really, really there with it. And is that something that you worked on hard in the off season? And if so, is that like, was there any kind of special thing that you did to kind of like hit the gym? I need to make like 10 from each spot before I quit or anything like that?
Both years. So actually coming out of high school, it was really something I picked up in my senior year. I wasn't like a great 3-point shooter by any means. And I think my sophomore to my senior year was a jump by like 15%. And so I knew obviously, I was pretty tall my sophomore, junior year. And obviously, high school, you're not going to face that level of competition. And so that was really something I had expanded on even before I got to college. And knowing that was going to be something super important here, obviously statistic wise, we're not a team that shoots a lot of 3-pointers. And again, we have always had a post presence. So just watching them before and talking with the coaches that whole summer coming into my freshman year, that was something I wanted to do really well. And then last year, got a lot of opportunities, shot at a decent percentage. And just again, it was a great way to, expand our offense and just not have teams shrink the floor and be able to sit in the paint as much. And then this year, kind of the same thing. We definitely have added a lot more players who look to shoot threes, with Aaliyah and Ashton. And I mean, Book's a great 3-point shooter as well. I think shot above 40, probably 44% last year. And so we just have a lot of people that now are just capable. And in terms of mine, no, my routine's been pretty consistent. I typically, like, 4 or 5 days out of the week, I'm in there 30 to 40 minutes before practice or after practice. And then if I'm lacking in a particular way, like I would say these last two games, statistically, I haven't shot it too well. So then I'll do something the next few days that's more pressure oriented where I can't miss two in a row. Otherwise, I'll reset. But it's tough now because we're a little bit low depth wise and still wanting to make sure the reps are game speed, but obviously not dying. And so we've had some great matchups these past 2 weeks. So it's kind of just what I need. Like I said, the length and just in terms of how many days I work out is pretty consistent. But if I vary something, adds, like I said, something just a little bit more specific to what I'm not doing as well, whether that's, a specific play that we want to run against the team, if we're going to get zoned, just different things more detailed to matchups.
You mentioned Aaliyah and her impact on this team and how she's grown.
Mhm.
You were the big time freshman coming in a season ago, and now you get to play a little bit of that mentorship role. What can you
Yeah.
talk about, the impact that she's had, how maybe it's helped you in your game, and then also what it's like to be a leader and mentor? How are you kind of helping her adjust to this level? And then also like how are you seeing her develop over the course of this season?
Yeah, I mean she's got it. She's got it all. I mean, a great three-level score and the size. And the best thing that she does is again follow that blueprint. Like myself, I had a lot of people that I watched that were in the gym and she did the same thing. And that was particularly why she got off to such a strong start in her freshman year while adjusting to the pace and while adjusting to the physicality that most people talk about comes with the jump from high school to college. But anytime I have the opportunity to give her advice, settle things down, I'm always grateful to be in that position, especially again, watching her do kind of the same thing and even in a bigger role. So yeah, she's done a great job, and I'm super excited to be playing back with her in a couple of weeks.
Yeah, we cannot wait for her to come back. She's such a fun player to watch. And
Definitely.
this podcast is called The Next Woman Up, and it's because we're looking at college players. We're looking forward to seeing as they progress to go to the next level. So I have to ask Jordan, is going pro always been a goal of yours? Like when you were young, I know you come from a basketball family. Was that like I want to
Mhm.
make the W? That's the end goal for me.
Honestly, no. I have always been one where I was looking at schools and I wanted to be a doctor. And now, as gotten towards the end of high school and started, achieving more and, setting the bar higher for myself, now absolutely.
That's awesome. I mean, still maybe that could doctor can be your. We can have a Dr. J, another Dr. J, in the
Absolutely.
W, right? I
It's
think
it's still on the horizon. So
yeah, we're far enough removed. I think we can turn that nickname over to you. You talk about that how maybe your goals have changed. As just a sophomore, we're seeing your name start to shoot up the 2028 draft boards, and it's actually one of the favorite things that's happened as the W has grown is now we're starting to get
I
2028,
know,
2029 draft
right?
boards, and get to start talking about you guys, even as you're just really starting your college
Yeah.
career. What do you think are a couple things that now that you've maybe set that goal for yourself, what are some things
Mhm.
that you want to harness? What are some areas you want to grow in? Or what do you think is that next step that you need to take in order to continue to look like a first round draft pick when the time comes?
Yeah, and so I have honestly loved seeing that in terms of the growth of the women's game. It's really fun to go through those, projections before, whereas you kind of didn't even see them for the senior class until like
Yeah.
January, February. So that transformation's been huge. But I love to watch players who I feel like have similar skill sets that have made it there. And one of my favorites in the past few years, especially getting to play against her last year, was Sonia Citron. And the style that Notre Dame wants, obviously with Coach Neal. So just in terms of myself, love to watch the way they read pick and rolls. She's again a great three-level scorer, got a great outside shot, can finish really well. Her pace is amazing. So those are some of the things that I look for, but just watching her all-around game is and obviously her first year was amazing too.
Yeah, that's a pretty great comp and a pretty good person to model your game after, I would say, at that level. I could
Yeah.
definitely see some similarities there.
Yeah, 100%. And Jordan, we have one more, and then we're going to get to the speed round that I told you about. So,
Great.
but before we get there, I mentioned a couple questions ago. You come from a basketball family. Obviously,
Mhm.
your dad, University of Ottawa, and your mom at Brock University. What kind of advice have they given you on how to balance the college game with also your studies and just kind of like with the more attention that you're getting? Like,
Yeah.
what advice do they kind of give you around that?
They were amazing last year. I mean, I'm super grateful for my circle just because as a freshman, it's kind of your first time being unsuccessful. And especially when
Mm.
you have a lot of aspirations, it's very different to kind of come in and you have a couple of bumps, or maybe you're not performing as well or having the role that you thought you were going to have. So just in terms of making sure that I'm putting the work in, even though I'm not seeing the results yet. And then towards the end of the season, I feel like that came to the forefront, and just all the hours that, I continue to rack up while I was only playing 9, 10 minutes, and just being able to be consistent. So when that moment did come, that I was ready to perform in it. And kind of same thing this year, not shooting as well 2 games, had a good start to the season, whatever the case may be. It's just making sure that I'm level headed and that everything that I'm doing stays consistent. And so that even though the results, are going to dip here and there, there's nothing really that you could pinpoint in terms of work that's changing.
All right, Jordan, we're going to get to the quick hitters, the speed
Bring them
round.
on.
All right, let's
Oh, oh,
do
oh, you're
this.
asking for it now. Okay, we can change these questions up.
Yeah.
It's an editable doc, Jordan. So
Yes. So you mentioned a player you really like watching is Sonia Citron.
Yes.
You're a three-level scorer just like her. What's your favorite type of bucket to get?
Ooh, favorite type of bucket. Ooh. I'd probably say any kick out threes, like any
Mm.
inside out. I love a good post entry, relocate, come back. I feel like those are always good ones. Or transition three. It's good momentum.
The no 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 yes shots, right? That's
Yeah.
as a coach, that's always my favorite. Like when a kid pulls up and you're like, please go.
I've
Great call,
never
great call.
heard that before. I'm going to use that.
The
That's
no no
I feel
yeah.
like,
You've never heard me coach a game. There's a lot of no no
oh
no no
my
yes.
gosh,
So.
yes.
All right, you talked about those inside out threes. What do you prefer? How do you want to end a game with a game winning three or a game clinching steal?
Oh, game winning three. Gotta go with the game winning three.
No hesitation there. I love it.
No.
So we at home, whenever we're watching, we all wait for the jacket to come off of Coach Vic. We all wait. We're like, what time in the is it first quarter, second quarter, 3 minutes in?
Uh-huh.
Is that something the team jokes about as well?
No, we actually don't see it most times anymore. Especially last year I did, watching, but I know him well enough now that if I was, I'm not even gonna say that, but I'm gonna take under 4 minutes. I'm just gonna say under four. If you're watching.
Media training happening live right here. All
Well
right,
done.
Yeah.
we're a couple of Central Valley kids, you and I. So you're a Stockton kid, I'm a Sacramento kid. What do you prefer? This is gonna be a tough one. Like the
Okay.
vibrant, amazingly cultural food scene in Stockton or Texas barbecue in Austin.
Texas barbecue is so overrated to me. Like it is probably one of the most, I am not even going to lie. Like it is very, very overrated. And I don't even know if it's, Texas barbecue itself, but I'm more of one that likes like a home flavor. Like I'd rather have
Mm,
seasonings and then my dad is a great cook. And so he's one that's like seasoning and does a great job with like vegetables. And so it's like got a different herbal flavor. So I'm not one that's like huge, just like pour barbecue sauce on everything. And I feel
mm,
like Texas is a little bit more of that. So it's not even like I don't like, Texas barbecue is just like I'm used to like home cooked food and like flavor. And I do think the Mexican food is better in California. That also might be very
agreed.
controversial.
No, agreed.
Yeah,
100%. 100%.
especially like right in Stockton, absolutely.
Mhm. What's the best? What's the meal when you go home to visit? What are you asking your dad to cook first?
I'm either asking for any version of casserole, potato casserole, mac and cheese. He makes this really good homemade pasta sauce too, with like ground beef and large sausage. But yeah, those are probably my two favorites.
That's awesome.
We know you're a standout star in basketball, but also, Jordan, you're a runner, you're a track star in high school in the 800 to 1600. So the question is for you, if I said, hey, Jordan, tomorrow you have to run the 800 and the 1600, what are your
I would be
times going
so
to be?
upset. Anyway, but after I got over that, oh my gosh. Whew, okay, right now, I'm mid-season basketball shape. I feel like I could probably do an 800. This is not even fast for college either. This is extremely slow. So I hope no runners watching. But I'd probably be like 220 maybe. Yeah, I would have to ask. I don't know a lot of the distance runners here. We're good friends with a lot of sprinters, but I'm pretty sure the really good ones are down maybe sub twos, 205-ish. The mile, if I was running like a 1600, yeah, same thing. I'm pretty slow. They're like 420s, 430s. I'd probably be maybe 510, 505 if I was really pushing it. If I had a rabbit, I feel like I could do like 510, 505. But yeah, guys, my
Look,
track
you
days
might
are
call it
over. My
slow, but
track days are over.
I'm pretty sure you're beating both Michael and I in a race on those with those times. So like
No question at
yeah,
all.
I think you've
Yes.
got that one. All right, look, we talked about it. You've got a Final Four under your belt. You got a couple of gold medals. You were a McDonald's All American. What's the basketball moment? What was that like I've arrived moment for you?
Oh, it was my first time making the USA team. That
Mm,
was especially last year. Like I said, I had a time before. I think it was maybe 2 years before that I went. Got a lot of experiences with a lot of older players, and you're still disappointed. And as you go through your high school career, that's absolutely an accolade that you want to check off your bucket list. And again, to represent the USA team and just players who have come through there, that was probably one of my favorite moments. And we had a video too. It was like three of us were sitting there holding hands, just like waiting, because it's scary too. They read your names off, and it's just like, and it's alphabetical too. So I'm like, HIJKL, like just thinking about it too. So that was probably one of my favorite moments for sure.
that's awesome.
All right, Jordan, we'll get you out of here with this. Who is the one teammate on the Texas team right now who's able to elevate the mood in the locker room, but you can't say Rory Harmon?
Okay, it's Bree. Bree
Okay.
Preston for sure.
Love that. We got chatted with her, did a piece on her last year. She had a great season. You also had a great season last year, and you're having another great one this year.
Thank
Jordan,
you.
thank you so much for joining the program. We really appreciate you. Yeah, you're the next woman up. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me, Hookem.
All right, that was fantastic. Melissa, Jordan is just such a treat. Like you said, she's just such a down to earth player, such a joy to watch, such a joy to speak to. And yeah, that Texas barbecue comment really just had me going. And it's like, do we want to put that on the social? Do we want to
Yeah.
clip that? Because media trained, fantastic, great throughout the whole thing. You heard what she said about Vic, where she's like, yeah, actually, yes, we're not really paying attention to the jacket. Then you talk to her about food, her dad's cooking versus Texas barbecue. All media training out the window.
Yeah, yeah, but she's not wrong about California Mexican food versus Tex-Mex. She's not wrong. I have to give her that one. But yeah, it was great to talk to her. Like I said, that's one of the best parts about this, and we're having a lot of fun getting to introduce you guys to different players around the country, and we will be having a lot more here coming this season. I know you and I both heard back from quite a few and had people reaching out, so it'll be fun to continue to showcase some of our favorite players and some of your favorite players throughout the season this year.
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, Jordan Lee, rising up the 2028 draft board. She is favorite player. She's going to be your next favorite player as she continues to come up. But there's going to be a little break here as we go on holiday break. But before we wrap up the show, Melissa, I know we're running a little long here today. I want to take a look at some games that we have coming up out of the break. And I highlighted three big ones. You mentioned Nebraska versus USC is going to be a very, very interesting one. UCLA versus Ohio State
Mm-hmm.
and Michigan Wolverines. We saw what they did a few weeks ago against UConn, against my Oregon Ducks. So, of course, I got to get some Duck talk in there. Those are three games that I'm looking out for. How about you going into the break, coming out of the break? What has your attention?
Yeah, I am really excited about that. You're right on Oregon. I think Michigan versus Oregon. Michigan is again one of those teams. They're in the top 10, but it doesn't feel like they're garnering a lot of the attention. And so, to me, that is something that I'm absolutely looking forward to. I love the start of conference play. I think that there are so many good games, so many good leagues. There's so much depth across. I think the Big East, the Big 12, the SEC, the ACC. There's just so many opportunities for these teams to consistently prove themselves. I think that USC Nebraska game is going to be really, really fun. I'm interested to see what Notre Dame does in ACC play. They're kind of sitting in that top 20. They've done some really good things, but it doesn't feel like they're quite as dominant as they've been in the past. I think they feel like they have something to prove. Baylor, Oklahoma State is going to be coming up here at the end of the month as well. Again, we talked about Talia Scott and her injury. Oklahoma State's a team that's been right on the verge of the top 25, kind of bouncing in and out. They still have some question marks, but they kind of came out of nowhere a year ago, and now people are a little bit more prepared for them. What's Baylor going to do? Is Talia Scott going to be out? Is she going to miss significant time? Can they stay in the top 20? That's something that I think that we're all going to be paying attention to, because they've been such a huge part of the postseason for so long. Is this where we see them come back to earth a little bit? There's going to be a lot of really good games. We have a lot of ranked on ranked early in conference play. So January, end of December, beginning of January, going to be fun. Don't forget about Kentucky LSU. Also coming up too. I think that Kentucky, is another team that's just kind of hiding under the radar. Nobody's really talking about them, but the depth of the SEC is going to challenge teams, and I think we're going to see them really beating up on each other this season.
Yeah, you read my mind with that. I was going to go over to LSU real quick because what's on tap, like initially we talked about, UCLA, Ohio State, we talked about USC, Nebraska, Michigan, Oregon. But yeah, as you kind of take a wider lens out there, LSU is going to have an incredibly tough schedule. We talked about
Yeah.
first teams to fall. It could be them because within an 18-day stretch, they play Kentucky, Vanderbilt, Georgia, who's also undefeated, Texas, and Oklahoma. So
Jeez.
that is a hell of a 5-game stretch that they have right there. The reason I was looking because I have one date circled on my calendar, and that is February 14th. Typically, that's Valentine's Day. That's the day to express love and everything. And I don't think it is at all a coincidence that that's the day that Malaysia Fulwiley plays against South Carolina
Mm.
for the first time. since transferring away. So that'll be at LSU. That will not be on the road. But that is a game that there's going to be a lot of headlines around that. Let's just say that. So,
Yeah.
so there's a lot upcoming. Players are on holiday break right now. We are going to be putting this episode out, and we have some interviews lined up. We are not on holiday break. We keep on churning out the content here for you all because we want to highlight these players and continue to talk about this sport that we love. So, Melissa, any final words before we sign off here?
Yeah, I think, as said, like this is the meat, like we've got bowl season going on, but conference play starting in college basketball. This is going to be such a fun season. There's so much great excitement, so many big names and really fun personalities around women's basketball this year. So enjoy the football if you're a college football fan, but don't forget to keep tuned into women's basketball, and safe travels to all of the teams and the players as they take a couple of days off before we get right back into it here in about a week.
Yeah, it'll be great. It's a very short break, but a much needed one for them, especially those who are resting up from some injuries. Give them some time to recover right before conference play. We're looking forward to seeing that, and we're looking forward to seeing you here again on the next episode of The Next Woman Up.